one of the campaigns pre-COVID I used to do a lot was like when there were conventions for certain industries, just basically grab all of the ad IDs for all the cell phones at that location using like a geofence. It's kind of like retargeting in a way, because, you know, a lot of people understand retargeting. You go to a website, they pixel you, and then you start seeing them everywhere. This is just a backdoor way to do it, because you're just saying, here's some IDs, start showing ads to them everywhere.
This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and Flowchart with your boy,
My boy,
Matt Wolf and Joe Fair.
hey.
Yo.
What up, my friend?
I have a question.
What's up?
Have you heard of HostGator?
Have I?
Yeah.
I used to see their freaking billboards all around the San Diego, like downtown area.
They got to be a pretty massive hosting company.
You used to make a lot of money from them.
I did. I made a lot of affiliate commissions off HostGator.
How much money do you think you made from that?
I think at the height we were making $40K a month off of HostGator commissions.
Yeah?
Somewhere around there.
$40K a month just off of HostGator.
Just off HostGator commissions.
Damn. And how cheap was hosting?
I think they charge $50 a year. And they were paying us $100.
You were making $40K a year a month.
They were paying us $100 per customer we sent them, and the customers only had to pay for like a $50 per year subscription because they knew their customers would hang around for years and years and years and years. And so like they would basically pay like 2 years worth of their freaking revenue to get that customer.
I remember when you were telling me this years ago, before I personally was getting into affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
So when I was doing video production, doing my own stuff, when we were kind of just like kind of supporting each other, but not partners in biz. You were doing this and it made me so fucking jealous. I was like, wait, what? Like you're
but then I pulled you into the rabbit hole and went, hey, this affiliate marketing thing, you in?
Yeah. And then of course everything else is magical.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. No, it literally was because of this. I was like, hold on. I think we used to have a debate even. It was like, I used to, God, there's no such thing as passive income.
Yeah, we
Remember
did.
That?
We did.
And then I think it was actually this, and you were showing me like, okay, you don't call this passive income. Like,
yeah.
Like I'm not working to make this money. Like, okay.
Yeah, I front loaded the work.
Sure.
But
well, yes, there's always that.
But anyway, the reason I brought up HostGator is today we're talking with the original COO of HostGator.
He was literally there, not from day one, but basically
pretty damn early on.
And he exited with them.
And they exited for 9-figure exit.
Yes. And we'll just let Tim talk about that. But so Timothy Dick is on the show, or we've just been calling him Tim. So Tim, he's interesting, man. He's got such a cool background. I mean, his story of becoming an entrepreneur so early, but how he's applied that to HostGator, but also beyond that.
Yeah.
Super cool. And so he was the COO and they did some crazy. So he basically opened the hood of like how this company sold HostGator that we all
how
probably
they grew it and how they sold it.
Yeah. And he doesn't spare any details.
Yep.
So that's rad.
Yep.
Super open guy. Shout out to Aaron File as well. MindFix. He we just went straight into this episode, like down the rabbit hole. So you'll hear why. I don't have to say anything more than that. It's already there basically. But yeah, I mean, if you want to open your mind to how ads work too, like Tim is freaking brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, this episode, it's a little bit on the longer side from our normal length, but that's only because like towards the end of the episode, where we'd normally end the episode, he started talking about like advertising and programmatic advertising and,
too deep down,
and like the rabbit hole of like where advertising is going and like all the stuff you can do with the data that's being collected out there. And we're like, our minds were being blown in real time. And we're like, we can't stop this podcast. We keep rolling. And
he took us on a journey, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Like we in full transparency, I'll just say it right. Like we asked him about the story and this was his story. So he walked us through the HostGator days. He walked us through what has happened since then, like in between. And it's like all these like different, alleyways almost like so, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned along the way.
Oh yeah, no, this is a fascinating episode. So
You'll
buckle
dig.
up.
So get the notes because there are a lot of actionable things, but again, you got to navigate the journey with us. So hustleandflowchart.com/comp, COMP, hustleandflowchart.com/comp. Get the notes 2 weeks from this day. They go away, but right now they're free for you.
Yes. And also
Yes.
We're sponsored by Ahrefs.
Oh, yeah, they're back, our buddies.
Our favorite SEO tool.
Mm-hmm.
And we were actually just talking about, what's one of our favorite things about Ahrefs. What would we do when we first signed up for Ahrefs? Like when we, $7, 7-day trial. I'm going to test this thing out. What should I do day one?
Yeah.
And we decided probably run an audit, right? They've got this audit feature inside there where you plug in your URL and it'll do a deep dive into your site. It'll look at all the technical SEO. It'll look at, page load times and various areas where maybe you're using HTTP where you should be using HTTPS. And it goes in depth of like, here's all the stuff you can fix on your site. Yeah. And essentially it's just going to give you a checklist of like, start optimizing. Yeah. Right. Well, and that's
that anybody can understand. I think is more important. So a technophobe like me can be like, okay, I get it. Yeah. My site sucks before, like it's a D, and I think they grade it as well.
Yeah. I think it's like a number ranking.
There's some ranking. There's a scale. Basically, it shows you if you're bad, or if you're good, how to optimize anything beyond that spectrum there. So, but run a site audit. Yep. It's still like the thing. It's like the sexiest thing to do. Just like throw it in the bar, hit the button. Here's your report, custom to you. Even better, you could turn this into a little business and sell it on the side if you really wanted to pay for Ahrefs.
Yeah.
But excuse me. The point I'm making is it's a really cool tool that you can use with the content you already have on your website.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to do anything else other than plug your URL in and it'll say, okay, here's what we recommend you do.
And it's actionable. Boom. Yep. So that's a great use case of Ahrefs. You should go try it because they have a trial and it's only $7 for 7 days. $1 a day. So go to Ahrefs. That's AHREFS.com. That's AHREFS.com. Ahrefs, get the trial. Enjoy. All right, Tim, how you doing? We're live.
Good. How are you guys today?
Great, man.
Now, do you prefer to go by Tim or Timothy?
Tim's fine. Either really.
We're casual around here, man.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
We've done.
I had an old business partner named Bradley, and if you called him Brad, he would correct you. So.
Ooh, Brad.
Yeah. I know some people are, kind of like that, but I think it just, if they have like maybe like a son or, some kind of name issue like that. But
it's like, I don't want to sound like my son. God, no. How dare. Yeah, man. So we got connected through Aaron File. Got to give a shout out. Always love to do that.
Yeah.
All the best people come from just the other cool people that we've had on the show.
Yeah, Aaron's great. Like I went through her MindFix program.
Yeah.
I guess it's been 2 years ago or so. I mean, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Can you I don't know if it's like I'm kind of curious about like a before and after if you're open to sharing that kind of thing because she's been on the show and people have asked us, but I'm like, I don't have a good case study for you.
It's really hard to explain, but I definitely noticed a big difference. Whenever I first went on it, I had like some level of success already, in terms of like financially and, business wise and everything. But I was like, still had like a massive level of like imposter syndrome. Didn't really feel comfortable, like, talking about it, interacting, like going, live, like doing a live video or, even like participating and like, I was in like masterminds and stuff and I was just kind of like, just the quiet and just observed and, just like had a lot of like confidence issues and things like that. And whenever I went through the program, we worked through a lot of that. We worked through a lot of things too, where there had been a lot of things that I didn't really even realize about, just like money blocks where, I would hit certain levels and, then I would kind of just stay there.
Like a comfort kind of thing?
Yeah, like my comfort was getting companies to around 5 million, and which is very, it's good. I'm not complaining.
It's a nice comfort zone, for a lot.
And then it was kind of like consistently with multiple companies like that, and just not having. I didn't for one of the beliefs that we kind of uncovered, through it was that I didn't really allow myself to have feelings. Really, I mean, I suppressed it. And it was so.
How did your feelings? This is like going deep now.
Yeah, we just jumped straight into the fire.
Like, where would they come out? Like in business or some other way?
I kind of suppressed a lot of it, and it took a little while to to figure this out. And but we worked through it. And like this was just one of the areas, and like it was kind of like as an example, would have like a big exit, with a company that, made like life-changing money. And it was kind of like, blah, okay, what's the next thing? Day. No happy, no sad, or something, really negative happens, and just kind of, it was just, just kind of like, I really just didn't, I just kind of suppressed it all, and it was like I remember, getting, whenever I got a Tesla, the guys like at the dealership or whatever, it's just like, are you not like excited? And like, I'm like, it's a car. I mean,
so now are you like totally into cars? And no, I'm just kidding.
no, I mean, it really didn't change anything in terms of like my, things overall, but what it really, kind of just came down to a lot of like, just the feeling that if, any kind of like emotion was shown, that, then I would either be judged or disappointed or like showing success, and not having like that background, my family and growing up and all of that was like such a dramatic change that, I just kind of suppressed it a lot, and so that was one of the big things, and just really just kind of got over a lot of, I guess you would say, imposter syndrome and judging myself, quite a few things. I mean, it was a really interesting thing, because I went in kind of skeptical, and it's.
So, I think a lot of people would,
and it's a pretty expensive program, but I was like, I had actually had a recommendation from Taylor Welch. I had I was in his program mastermind and stuff in the past, and he
traffic and funnels, right?
Yeah, and I had I was talking to him one day about, I'm like, I don't know if I'm burnout or stressed out or what, but I'm just like not happy. And I was actually, I think the trigger for it when I was talking to Taylor was, I was like playing it very small, in terms of like, I had like people coming to me for consulting, business consulting, and a lot of what I do now, with M&A and stuff like that. And I would turn a lot of them away, and there wasn't really a good reason. It was more just a confidence thing.
I heard something recently. Who was it, Matt? It was someone, we recorded an episode last week. It was Dan Martell. That's who it was. Okay. And he was, I'm sure you know him, but he was talking about there's a lot of folks who will get in their own way subconsciously because they know they have to fulfill that thing they're about to sell. So for you, it could have been like, shit, I have to do another, like I have another client I need to fulfill, or I'm obligated now to, make this transaction, this person happy. So, and I heard that's such a super common thing that I know I can relate to. And probably most people that have to do everything themselves or choose to.
Yeah. And I think, all this stuff is like, I wouldn't say that like any of it ever goes away. I think, most entrepreneurs always have things like this that, come up like at each level. It's just a little bit different. A lot of people think that at, once I get to the next level, or once I hit, certain milestone, certain revenue, certain number of employees, or, whatever, that, things are going to, everything's just going to be magic and happy. But, it's something that these things, they just are different. You have different problems, but, you just kind of have to, I guess I would say you do kind of have to just kind of keep things balanced, not let the highs and lows really get to you, and, keep a balanced perspective, but, definitely celebrate your wins, the small ones, the large ones, all of them. And, whenever you're dealing with something that's like at the time it feels like a really negative situation or hopeless situation. It's like, I've been through things like that in the past, whether it's like patent lawsuits, business partner disputes.
Lots of money lost, I'm sure, along the way.
I lost $1 million in one day.
There you go. That'll do it.
That was and that was like cash money.
Jeez.
Like,
wow. You just drop a duffel bag of cash in a dark alley. Oops, that slipped. No, I'm just kidding.
So there's just been a lot of things like that. But whenever I look back at any of those, I've realized that, I'm more resilient, and I've going through those experiences just kind of makes me feel like whatever happens, going forward, it'll probably be a different problem. Things are likely not going to be the same, but I can deal with stuff, and that's like one of the biggest things, and I think, I mentioned last time, one of the biggest kind of I guess one of the points that, I kind of realized that that I could stop worrying so much, and my stress level went way down, was whenever I realized that I was confident that I could rebuild something if I lost everything. And it's kind of like looking at in the absolute worst case, and you lose completely everything. I mean, I would just go online and build something else.
It's like nothing and no one can hurt you. So it's like, why feel anxious or scared, even losing a physical thing like, a car or money, even $1 million. It's like, it doesn't matter. Can't hurt me. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can always rebuild. I mean, it's, if you, especially if you have like sales skills, marketing skills, and you develop that. I mean, you have like some resiliency built in.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So, I mean, what you're saying is very so. So with Aaron, I worked with Aaron too, and Aaron really, really helped me with the imposter syndrome. That was like the thing that she honed in on, because we do this podcast, right? And so when I'm interviewing entrepreneurs who, in my mind, are way more successful than me, I'm sitting here going, who am I to be talking to this person, right? And so that was the big thing that I worked with Aaron on, and she for the most part, completely cleared it for me. That's why I was saying very cool, because I'm very relate to what you worked on with her as well.
Yeah, her work. It's amazing. Yeah. But you've done you have definitely gone way down the rabbit hole with her. But I know your backstory. I'm sure that's what you want to get to.
I was gonna say, I feel like we jumped into how when they start a movie, they always jump into the action scene, and then after the action scene, they're like, all right, let's rewind and go back to how we got to this point. I feel like that's how this podcast started. So
we should do that more often, man. I like it. It's like, boom, threw you in the deep end. All right, now who the heck are we talking about?
So I know you have history with HostGator. I used to be a really big HostGator affiliate, actually, so we could probably talk about that a little bit later.
You're a customer of ours too. You read our stuff, and that's super cool. I see your name a lot.
Yeah. So let's go back. So what were you doing before you were kind of an entrepreneur, and how did you get into it? How did the HostGator story happen? The exit, all of that. Let's get into the details.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in rural West Virginia. My family was not entrepreneurial. My dad was a coal miner. My mom was a homemaker. Didn't really have, history of any kind of entrepreneurial type endeavors really in the family, and that was kind of something where I was in a small town, and from a really small age, I always from a young age just felt kind of different. I felt like, there has to be more, I would see things on, TV, and it's just like, really there's more to the world than what's here, and basically once I got on the internet, that was really when when I got opened up to, all the opportunity that's out there. And, I just kind of self-taught, started a computer repair business when I was in middle school. Put up flyers around town, and I just figured, if I can't solve a problem or research and learn, then I just won't charge the person. So
that's cool.
Just kind of from that led into web design. And this was late 90s, early 2000. So I was doing web design, but the problem was there weren't really a lot of customers for that locally. Small town, there's only so much there. So I realized, on the internet, through like message boards and all these different things that, I could do business with people in other places. And, I was maybe 13 or 14 years old, but they didn't know that. And,
that's right. You had the facade of the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And, so long story short with that, web design kind of led into web hosting, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. People pay every month, and you don't necessarily have to like do something every month. Like you just set it up, and as long as it, the server stays up, I mean, it kind of just rolls. So basically, I've pretty much always been an entrepreneur because, I basically have made six figures since middle school, and so I was in the small town, very, very small town. Like our entire high school had like 100 people in it, something like that. So
you were like this kind of anomaly that like came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And it was just, like I finished high school early. I was fortunate that, there was a pretty supportive community. I was getting like a lot of publicity at the time for being so young, and had like a couple newspaper covers. The school was getting attention for, so they were happy with that. Like, and it was just this crazy time. My parents had no idea. They didn't know what to think about it. Like, they were kind of like, what are you doing? Why are there money orders showing up for thousands of dollars? And you're just like spending so much time on the computer, and like, how does this, this work? Yeah. And like, they finally just kind of accepted it, but I think they still didn't really understand it. And, they eventually, they just eventually accepted it, so finished high school, early. And, at that point, I moved, the day of the high school graduation, so I had already had an apartment in like what would be considered like the more city-ish part of West Virginia, I guess.
So you're like, you're like out of there.
Yeah. And graduation day, I moved, and it was in a college town, and I was debating going to college then, and I just couldn't do it though. So I just didn't want to like set through classes that weren't relevant to what I was doing, and then knowing in my mind that I was already making probably more money than the person teaching.
Yeah.
And all these
in high school you were already
it was just all these weird feelings. So like but I was really excited because like whenever I moved to my first place, first apartment by myself, I could get cable or DSL internet because, where my parents lived in that area at the time, there was no broadband.
Dial up, everything, huh? Oh, man.
Everything was dial up.
So you just like saw probably like dollar signs too, and exponentially like, oh, I can do everything way more efficiently.
Yeah. And so, from there, social media wasn't as that big of a thing back then. The form of social media, I guess, were like, there was like IRC chat rooms and message boards. And, so, I had, met, others in the web hosting industry, I wanted to move to a bigger city. Ended up basically kind of folding my web hosting business at the time into another larger company in upstate New York. Moved up there, so I moved to the Albany area for a couple years, and was I guess 18 or 19, and I moved, folded my operations in, and was VP of operations at a company there in the web hosting industry. There for a few years, we didn't get along too well. So that company will be nameless. But then through message boards again, after I'd been there a few years, my friend messaged me, from a message board. He said, "Hey, HostGator's growing a lot. Like, you have a lot of experience in the industry. Do you want to move down to Florida and help?" And I went down and met Brent, the founder of HostGator, in person. The first night that that I was there, we went to dinner, and then we ended up talking like out in on his like front patio. Like, we were sitting there talking for like 10-12 hours straight. So we were just like, we really hit it off. And then we're like, wow, it's like 5 a.m. So I moved down about a week later, just Florida. Literally went back and moved down. That's where he grew up, so he was founded HostGator then. I think at the time there were about 9 employees or so. I don't really remember the exact number, but it was pretty minimal. But the company was growing really fast, and whenever I went in, it was he was already growing the company, but I went in and set up like the accounting, the operations, the more like his version of accounting at the time was, I don't use any accounting software or do anything because there's so much money coming in that the bank account balance just keeps going up so fast that so I just save all my receipts and put them in a big plastic bin and give them to the accountant at the end of the year. And I guess that year they had told him, they're like, "We're going to bill you at like $65 an hour to go through this stuff."
His accountant must have hated him.
Yeah.
So that's when you showed up, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so you're doing almost $10 million and you're not really tracking any of this. Like,
there's no bookkeeping, none of that.
Yeah. So I got all that set up, a lot of the initial hiring. We realized pretty quick, South Florida wasn't going to work because the real estate was still pretty expensive there. This was kind of pre-crash. And so we were looking at office space. We were in this little strip mall in a tiny little 1,500 square foot space in the strip mall. And we finally decided to look at other cities, because hiring was expensive there. Real estate was expensive there. And we ended up moving to Houston. It was mainly just because of the taxes, the cost of living, all, there were some data centers there. So, hiring was a little easier. And we went from that little strip mall space, 1,500 square feet, to actually buying a 35,000 square foot building.
Whoa.
And, when we got there, it was kind of like, it was a 4-story building, and so each floor was about 10,000 square feet. So that was, going from 1,500 to just one floor of the building. That'll last us forever. The rest of it was, had tenants. So we were taking one floor. We had tenants. We'll never outgrow that, and of course the building was, filled within. We had to non-renew leases, like,
wow,
pretty much within a year, because we hired hundreds of people.
So that was mainly personnel then. So it's were your servers and all that stuff in there as well?
No.
All? Wow.
None of that was ever there, and so but we were 24/7, so we had 3 shifts, and just everybody was in-house. That was one of the things that was unique with Hostgator is there weren't any remote employees.
Gotcha.
So everyone, and that's one area that, I differ in a little bit than, Brent, the Hostgator founder, because he really at the time, wanted to be focused on having everyone in the office and, didn't feel that remote work could be very effective, and I felt that, either can work. There's pros and cons. So that's kind of where things went, and HostGator just kept growing. I was, at the same time, a few years in, I started a voice over IP company. And he actually invested in it. So I was still working for HostGator. I was COO at the time. It was kind of a choose your own title, but, just, selectively involved. Yeah. And we were growing really fast. And, he had said, can you please just go start another company, because I kind of have all my eggs in one basket. I want to invest in something else. And ultimately that was his baby, and we knew that, I wanted to build my own. So he invested $1 million into VoIPO, which is a voice over IP phone service. This was actually, put in perspective, before the iPhone existed, any of that. So Vonage was a competitor, and that was really it. There was no Magic Jack. There was none of that.
And you're still, you still have this company running right now, right?
I still own it. Yeah, it's 14 years old now.
Dang, man.
And
wow.
Some of we actually still have some clients that have been with us that for over, I think the oldest is almost 13 years.
Wow. So with HostGator, well, Matt, you have some history with HostGator. You haven't said anything, but being an affiliate, because you guys were crushing it back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had a company. Bradley. We had a company called LearnToBlog.com, but prior to Learn to Blog, he had a company called.
Oh yeah, I remember that affiliate. Yeah,
he had a company called Free Blog Factory.
Yeah.
Before that, so Free Blog Factory was they developed some sort of software where if somebody bought HostGator, it would automatically load WordPress onto their server and then a whole bunch of plugins and themes, and it was sort of set up for you. Right. And that was Free Blog Factory. I had a company called the WordPress Classroom, which was just training on how to be a blogger. We actually merged those two companies into learntoblog.com. And we made so much more money off of promoting HostGator than we did off of actually selling our Learn to Blog courses. Because
we were paying out millions of dollars a month.
Yeah. I think we got to a point where I think it costs $50 a year for your HostGator account, but our commissions were $100 a sale or something like that.
Yeah. I think we topped we had a tiered payout scale, and I think the top was $125.
Ooh, you were close, Matt.
Yeah, I think we were about $100. Yeah,
$125.
Damn, I remember Matt telling me about that. I was like, wait, what? Hold on. So because I think that's when I was wrapping my head around affiliate marketing and how you can integrate that into your existing business. And here you are, trainer. Here's Bradley over there. I was going to call him Brad, but he would have slapped me. Bradley, he's got the service side. And then here you need the infrastructure, the foundation, which is hosting, just freaking affiliate. There you go.
Yep.
And that overtook your business.
And that's kind of one of the approach that you took, with, I didn't know you back then, but, obviously all of our top affiliates were doing something along those lines in terms of they were adding something else as a value add to get someone to, sign up. So we had someone that would, give a free website, which was usually WordPress, and, I'll give you the design or the templates. You just have to get the hosting, and you use the link, and get it, sign up for whatever plan you want. Yeah. And, then you got the commission on the back end. And that was, so many people in the affiliate program, we had tens of thousands of affiliates, but most of them didn't really make that much money. Most of them, because they would just like, they didn't look at it like that. They looked at it as like, I'm going to sell this hosting to someone, send them my link.
Yeah.
It's like, no, if you add something of value and make it like just kind of like a value add. I mean, it's so easy.
Yeah. Well, I know for the longest amount of years, maybe still, Pat Flynn, I know this was a competitor, but Bluehost, I think that's been his like longest standing affiliate commissions. Like when he would publish all these reports, it's not like we know it's all the public numbers. And Bluehost, it just seems like one of those things as affiliate promotions that's like, here's a foundational item that we all need as an owner of online businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that, obviously like affiliate marketing in general, is something that it's a good model for both sides, because for us as a company at HostGator, even though like some people, may look at it as like, well, if we were paying $125 to some people and the customer was paying $50, we knew what that customer would more than likely stay. And, it averaged out to, the customers would stay for years. So, for us, it's kind of the bulk of our growth really at HostGator was affiliates and AdWords.
AdWords, yeah.
Google AdWords.
Yeah.
Those were the big things.
I think when I knew you guys were getting like big time, I saw billboards around San Diego. Yeah. I remember that. Like there was like a big push like in the heart. I was like, what the hell? Like geez. Hosting company.
We got to a point where we had we had Google reps, like, and Google actually had like I think it was 4 full-time reps just focusing on our account.
Full-time.
Like we were spending so much money with them. We were spending like 7 figures a month. So, it was like, it was basically to the point where we couldn't really find anything else to do online. So that was where it was like, let's start doing billboards. We did a NASCAR team one year.
Oh.
We did a UFC fight, and the guy had like the gator on it.
Yeah.
And then Brent's I'm a little more conservative. Brent's a little crazy. He likes to do wild things, and so he put out this ad. He didn't really think anyone would do it, I guess, but he offered to pay someone. I don't even remember. I think it was $10,000 to like get like the logo tattoo on their forehead. Of course, somebody did it. And then there was. He found this guy that was like an amateur boxer or something, and the guy was like, "I'll change my legal name to HostGator." And so then every time he would go to his amateur boxing matches or whatever, they would announce him, and it would be HostGator, and his last name was .com.
Wow.
We just did all these crazy things, and that was really, we were just at a point where there was so much growth that we were just finding things to do at that point.
You're kind of having fun with it at that point.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good problem to be. Good situation, huh?
Yeah.
And the billboards, we actually had more billboards for hiring than we did for the service itself.
I remember that actually. You did have a lot of hiring, and I mean that just shows you were growing somehow, probably not through billboards. That's just such an interesting concept.
Yeah, and and it was something that one of the biggest things there is that there were some things that we maybe did that were, not conventional, but we didn't really have any external influence. So, like I was, 20s, like 20 to 21, something like that during that time. The founder of HostGator, Brent, he's 3 years older than me. So, he was like 23, 24. And, so we just basically, we knew that we just wanted to provide really good service, focus on that, and just kind of use common sense and do the right thing. So all these different challenges that would come up with growth, like, I mean, when you hire hundreds of people, you run into a lot of really interesting situations. Anything you could imagine and stuff that you wouldn't even imagine, like you start having to deal with, but we didn't have any venture capital or outside investors or, any pressure that was like an external factor.
Yeah, there was like less
guiding us,
less red tape to just make quick decisions on things like that.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of things that we were probably able to do that some other companies might not be able to, because of the they have certain parameters they need to stay in. So
do you think
he was really focused on it?
Was that like a really big part of the growth, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Because there's so many hosting companies out there. Like I mentioned, Bluehost. I mean, they've been around for, I don't know, maybe around the same length of time. It seems like they have always been in the game.
Now, didn't Bluehost exit to the same company that HostGator exited to?
Yeah.
So they're actually under the same umbrella now, I think.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
There's like 30 or 40 hosts that are under the same umbrella. Basically, an investment company bought up like all of the hosting companies that they could. GoDaddy was one of the only ones that they didn't buy. They were bigger, and so they spent about $2 billion buying hosting companies.
Wow.
HostGator, Bluehost, and iPowerWeb, and basically on the those top 10 sites, like 8 or 9 of the 10 they own. But the way they operate, they don't integrate the brands. They integrate behind the scenes. So I guess it's not entirely true, but they don't publicly integrate. So
all the systems, servers are probably all similar.
Yeah, you're literally talking to the same support people at at Bluehost and HostGator, and on the same infrastructure and servers, but they just know that if you cancel service with one and switch, well, it's probably one of their brands and you just don't know it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of their model. But yeah, HostGator was sold to them. It was a couple $100 million exit. So that was.
Did you have some equity in the company at the time too?
So I didn't have equity. Brent owned all of it. I didn't have equity, but I did at the time of the sell there. I benefited quite a bit from it. So
I'm curious, how did the exit go down? Like, how did you and Brent sort of get the news? What was like the atmosphere in the company as it was coming? I'm just fascinated by it.
Yeah. So I had actually about 3 years before the sell, I had kind of phased out of day-to-day type stuff and actually moved out. That's when I moved out to California and moved VoIPO out here because I just really didn't like Houston. And VoIPO was like starting to take all my time. So then I was kind of just like selectively involved. So it's kind of hard for me to say like how like the day-to-day, looked. I know that, there was a period where there were a lot of rumors and things like that, but ultimately it was something that it was not really a planned sell. It was kind of like if they happen to offer the right amount of money, it'll happen kind of thing. And once
situation.
and once he he decided that they had hit that, then they announced it, and it took about a year to fully close everything and exit. There weren't any immediate changes, but it was definitely like a really big roller coaster for everybody. I mean, because like one of the interesting things is it's like when you have a big exit like that, like even Brent, like he was one of the, I remember a call with him and he was like, I'm like, you should be happy right now. Like, I mean, he was like, I think he was 34 at the time, and he got, several $100 million in a lump sum wire transfer, and he's like, but now I'm not a billionaire.
Because the whole worth of the company and all that. Yeah.
And it's like, well, a couple $100 million, that should be enough, right? And it's just like, no, there's more pressure now to to grow that into more. And that's one of the interesting things that I've seen is that I've seen that happen over and over. There definitely is, at each level, we all think that we'll, kind of be happy and, content, but most true entrepreneurs, we're just kind of like, might take a few months off or something, but I mean, it's very hard to just stop.
Yeah, the goalpost just keeps moving.
You and I were just having that conversation before. I think it was partially because I kind of knew that story, so I was talking to Matt. But we're like, it is interesting as an entrepreneur because we don't know how to stop. We're so driven. We see problems in the world that we know we can solve, so we do it, or we find the resources to collaborate on it. And so how do you make sure you're in? Obviously, you already talked about Aaron and Mindfix, and maybe Brent needs a little bit of Mindfix.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how do you keep yourself, I guess, where those goalposts? How do you keep yourself happy throughout that whole process of knowing, like, hey, there's more to be done? Like, do you have any daily routines that kind of keep you in check?
For me, like that's really been investing, consulting, and basically being able to like experience other projects, challenges, industries, work with different people, but not have to go fully start entire companies.
It's almost like come in and inject your wisdom and collaborate and kind of, see what they already have going in motion.
Because ultimately, I mean, I'll be honest, like VoIPO, it's 14 years old. It's kind of, there was a period of time for sure where I got bored with it, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of on autopilot. It's, we have about close to 100,000 customers all over the country. So nice. Even with churn, we're still growing. Our growth is not what it was in the past. But it's still, growing as a company because we were on the 5,000 list a couple times.
Nice.
But then, I can definitely tell looking back, like the time whenever I kind of got bored with it, that's when growth slowed down a little bit, and so it's just been a slow and steady because I kind of look at it as a kind of a combination of a SaaS company, software in the cloud, with kind of like the stability of like a utility, like telecom.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is.
It's kind of like this not talked about a lot, I guess, technology. Like it's been around for a while, voice over IP, but it's almost like, no disrespect, it almost sounds like a boring company.
Well, isn't what we're doing right now, VoIP?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Huh? Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many implications, but it's like, I'm just seeing it as like this amazing, boring, stable, recurring income company that allows you to kind of do whatever.
And it's interesting that sometimes the boring industries are the ones where there's the most profit and least competition.
Sure.
And so another thing that a lot of people find really surprising about VoIPO is that over 80% of our customers are residential.
Interesting.
People with home phones. We have a lot of seniors, and a lot of people that have kids that they don't want to have handling like their iPhone or something, or a lot of people that make a lot of international calls because those rates are still pretty expensive on a cell phone. Then we have business customers, and we have some that have like the, I guess you'd say, the phone system in the cloud, with extensions and routing, and that's obviously accelerating a little bit, due to more people working from home. They can use still be on the same phone system, but use an app or a phone at home, or pretty much whatever. But the bulk of our business is still in that residential space, where the customer has an adapter, they plug it into their router, and then they just plug their phones into it. Normal, regular house phones.
That's pretty sweet, man. I mean, yeah. Well, I just love the fact that it's still such an easy, not easy because obviously you built it out and all that, but it's just such a I guess, passive or understated thing that you've made.
Yeah, because it's like, so it works just like traditional home phone service. So people really, wouldn't know the difference. But where we're at with it now, it's kind of like we have a couple, like we have the core business, but the network and infrastructure that we've built, over the years, that can be used in so many different ways. So now within that business, we're looking at, building new services that utilize the infrastructure that we have. So because, a lot of apps tie in with like Twilio and things like that. And they may offer phone numbers for, like $1.50 a month and then charge usage fees and things. We're an actual licensed phone company, so they have to go through a company like us to get the phone numbers that they offer to developers.
So that's like, texting companies, all these security, like text messages with apps that like require this text to log in. Like there's probably like so many implications where you can tap into.
Yeah. And so we just haven't built a lot of the developer tools for developers to tie in, except in custom situations. So we're working on more things like that. Those phone numbers cost us 5 cents. I mean, then Twilio or someone sells them for $1, but that's still 20x.
Jeez.
Well,
there's the math right there, why it's so sexy. And it's recurring too, right?
Yeah. And then there's and like usage, like, wholesale carriers don't actually pay for usage. They get paid for it. So it's kind of a convoluted thing, but if a company's charging you for incoming calls, they're getting paid on the back end of the telecom infrastructure, and
so they get paid twice. Wow, interesting. Okay.
And you might remember like years ago, there were some cell phone services that had like free incoming.
Sure.
That's why. I mean, they're getting paid on the incoming.
So it's just like this system, this thing that people are just so accustomed to paying for, they're probably not even questioning because they don't understand what's happening.
Well, yeah. And they also look at it as like, it's so low. The prices dropped so much over the years that they're like, well, I used to pay, $40 or $50 for that. So for our residential customers, it works out to around $7 a month for unlimited calling, unlimited features.
That's a no-brainer compared to like some local company or whatever, big name company even.
Yeah, and there's still a pretty steady market in that, but I know that market is it is going to decline over time. So that's why we're focusing on the business side. We have like the phone system in a cloud kind of offering, but there's already a lot of that out there. So what we're really looking to do there is just figure out what are some cool creative things we can do, like with messaging, so like using like text messages, because all of our numbers are enabled for messaging. So we can tie that into software for like a live chat where people can text in, for marketing support, conversational, analytics is another big one, because since I love marketing, phone numbers are so cheap that we can use them for tracking.
So swapping around phone numbers on websites or wherever else you use.
Yeah. So like, let's say that you have like the most simplistic way to put it is like you have, different ads running in different places. You put a different phone number on each one. So if someone happens to call instead of click, you would know they came in on this phone number. So that ties into this ad. But you can actually automate that where, on your site, instead of putting in like a phone number, you can just put in like some JavaScript code that will dynamically generate a phone number when someone comes in and automatically label it in your system. As far as like they came from, this campaign or however you want to link it. And so then, it's just better attribution. And when you combine that with, both the voice side and also texting, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do. So we're, we're working on some products products, that fall into those categories. And that's really where we want to put like our R&D, because it's the core of the business is going to be still slow and steady.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that sometimes it is tempting to just sell it because I get a lot of unsolicited offers,
I'm sure.
It's like, cause it's just a lot of recurring revenue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are always very valuable. I mean, they're, yeah. I mean,
yeah. So when you've got, we do around 5 million or so. So, nice. That's a decent amount of recurring revenue. Profit margins are good. So it's kind of a, something like that. But I just look at it as like, it's a platform to build on, and it's something that there's so much more that we can do with it. That it's also an asset that can be looked at in different ways, because like in a sell, there may be if whenever we eventually I do sell the company, no plans to do that currently. But
stop the offers, everyone. Stop them. You ain't gonna say
but like the infrastructure could be sold separately from the clients and
as
like
assets,
that.
Right? Like individual asset sales.
Yeah.
Because even just like say like a regional cable company wants to launch a phone service and they don't want to spend $1 million in several years getting all the approvals and licenses and all those things in different states. They could technically just buy the entity that already has those.
I think it's super smart business, man. Like retain the ownership of the foundation, but like sell off all the, or even maybe collaborate with partners who are doing something really cool. Like you have this cost savings vehicle. It's already proven. You have the infrastructure. Just build on profit layers, right? It's like
yeah. And then that's profit layer. That's that's my consulting company, and it's actually a consulting company that has an agency side, to it. So consulting wise, I do a lot of the one-on-one consulting is usually like M&A and business stuff in the SaaS space, usually, where it's like, helping do due diligence on deals, where that's like kind of like reviewing all the details, finding, matching investors with potential acquisitions and things like that. And then, I kept running into situations with a lot of clients that where I would, end up doing some consulting on marketing, because marketing's always been something that I've been really fascinated with. And, I've gotten into a lot of cool stuff over the last few years with like programmatic, native, and like all these new platforms. And, but I would have these consulting clients sometimes that would, they would want to implement marketing, and I could tell them what to do, map out a plan, but then they would have a hard time finding someone to execute it, or they would get an agency that there are just a lot of bad agencies out there that I was really surprised at like how, there are some good agencies, obviously, but there are some that they really basically, I think the biggest thing is they don't really take any, they don't have any responsibility for how they manage the account necessarily, or the return that they get. It's just kind of like a lot of companies just kind of gloss over that too, because they're just like, well, I guess they tried, so what can they do? But so I ended up buying an agency, and about 1.5 years ago, merged it into Profit Layer. So now we have the agency.
That's with Nick Peterson, right?
Nick's part of that. Yeah, he's
nice.
He's part of it. And he works a lot with like the organic referrals, that integrating like those types of things into campaigns. Because we like with anyone that we're working with, on the agency side, it's like we look at the full picture, in terms of we're not necessarily just managing, just one ad platform, just Facebook ads or just Google ads or YouTube ads or anything. It's, we're looking at like their revenue growth, and the actual real return. So kind of like as like an investment advisor, like, we're managing their ad dollars to get the best result, and depending upon what they want, and for most people that's to make more money, and so it doesn't matter how many likes or clicks or shares or, leads, you could get cheap leads, but if none of them close, then, you don't make money. So we look at that full picture. And so Nick actually, he works with a lot of the organic, and then I'm much more of a paid traffic guy. Like because it's kind of like, it's that balancing act, there's opportunities on both sides, but it's like, especially with like programmatic types of advertising, you can go in and the targeting can be so insanely tight that you can speed things up a lot. So, like building relationships and, your audience and everything from a paid standpoint, you can just literally really hone in on your audience. Like, so you can do targeting because there's all these data providers that you can buy data from. And then there are ad networks, and so Google Display Network's a good example. Google Display Network, a lot of people understand that because websites, off of Google, just general websites can make money using Google AdSense and put those Google display ads on their sites. And there's like a handful of other networks, that do that. So basically every site that's monetizing their site, if they're not managing it in-house, which very few are, they're using like one of 10 or so display networks. It might be Verizon or Google or, any of a handful of them. And so we can go in and, with native, we can literally like place, do placements where we can literally find a spot on a site, that is monetizing there. And it has like, it has like a certain number of impressions available per day. And if we're the high bidder, we either we just max out the number of impressions or we're outbid. That's it. There is no algorithm to fight with. It's literally just here's what we want, give it to us. And outside of placements, you can do the same things with by bringing in these data providers with behavioral stuff. So one example that's really interesting is the cable companies sell data to a lot of the data brokers. And so there's a filter that we can use. And this obviously wouldn't, any of the targeting it's not going to be 100% or it's not going to cover 100% of the people, but it covers a decent enough number of them that it's definitely useful. But with the cable companies, we can target if someone is impulsive or not.
Oh, wow.
Because they may need the offer to be structured differently. And it's like, well, how does the cable company know that? Well, they know if you fast forward a lot. They know if you skip around when you're watching TV or if you watch shows fully in order in episode by episode. So little things like that. And so you can, use that obviously for, structuring an offer or, like if it's someone that's impulsive, you might want to have a sale that's ending that day with a countdown timer. If it's someone that's not, you might need like a more methodical offer. And so you can do these things and you find the most interesting things that like you may never even know, because you can basically take like an audience that you already have or a list that you already have, or even just put a pixel on your site and a pixel for your conversions. and feed that back to some of the data providers, and they'll actually basically build out that profile.
So what are some data providers that you use or recommend?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say. It depends on what you're looking at, in terms of the data, because literally there's like thousands of them.
Okay, so it depends on probably niche and all that specialty.
Yeah, and they all kind of have like their own specific, I guess you would say, like ways of obtaining the info.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just like looking through a list of some of the common ones that I use. There's like, Experian, there's,
Isn't Tower Data one?
Tower Data, yeah,
that's
Datalogics, Data Lab, D&B. And what I actually do is I use basically a DSP platform. And there are a couple DSPs. It's just
what's that?
Display side.
Oh, okay.
So display side is kind of like the ad buyer side, and SSP is that would be like the actual ad network, like Google Display, OpenX.
Okay.
All those, there'd be like the publishers on the supply side. But on the demand side, there's a few softwares. AppNexus is one that I use a lot, and it's basically, think of it as like an interface that ties into those networks. So you can use the Trade Desk or AppNexus or MediaMath. Like there's a handful of platforms, and the difference in it is that what providers they integrate. Because if you were to go out, it wouldn't be efficient for like all these data providers to offer everything to individual advertisers.
Right.
So basically, whatever platform you're using, you can just add all these different whatever data providers they integrate with, and most of them are integrated with all the top ones. And you can like use that for targeting and layering things into your advertising.
That's cool. So you're basically like combining all this data from different sources depending on where you're looking, and then you have the ability to essentially bring in that data into an interface and then hook it into any kind of ad network or platform where you want to deliver that ad. Instead of just like going to Facebook and like, hey, let's do some targeting here in Facebook.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of like the same principle, like the data that Facebook has for that targeting is data that they've collected. Mm-hmm. This is just using data from other sources.
Yeah.
And it's anonymized. So, a lot of people are kind of like, they a lot of people come to me and they're like, can you pull some data for me? And I'm like,
yeah, it doesn't work.
I can very easily run ads to that data, like with using it as targeting, but I can't just like give you like a lead list or something.
Yeah, it's like, I want to know about the guy down the street. I want to target. No, it's like, no. It doesn't work that
because
way.
What happens is like when you, even like when you are identifying like your own, say like if you took your list and you wanted to profile it to see like if there's any like high concentrations of something, like maybe the people on your list like Heinz ketchup. Mm-hmm. I mean, little things like that is so random sometimes, but it'll be like you have a high correlation of this, and it's not going to like identify the person or the lead or anything. What it'll actually, it matches it up using like an anonymized token, and so it's just like this ID number, I guess you could say, that you have no idea who it is, and all these different providers, they do the same thing. So you may get tokens for someone from different providers, but then when you put it into the networks, there's like a few, of the ad networks, they're kind of like directly integrated. Mm-hmm. A few of the major ones that will basically export an audience, of those people.
So it's like matched up, and then they export, so you can then throw it into wherever you want to display.
Yeah, I mean, we've downloaded a list of podcast listeners, and what it did was it gave us a list of mobile ad IDs, MAIDs, right? And they were just like random strings of numbers and letters that nobody can interpret, but you can actually upload that list into Facebook, and Facebook can target those people.
Yeah, and you can do some really cool things with that. So like those ad IDs, like you know, Android and Apple each have their own version of it, but it's almost like a serial number in a way, but it's an ad ID, that they have for people, and like you can do some really cool stuff, like one of the campaigns pre-COVID I used to do a lot was like when there were conventions for certain industries, just basically grab all of the ad IDs for all the cell phones at that location using like a geofence.
So how would so you would get those ad IDs from whatever provider from that conference or similar people, and then what, geo-target?
Yeah, I would just use in the ad platforms, there's different geo-targeting providers, and so I would go in and I would say, okay, here's the address and everything that's within how many ever feet or miles or whatever some of them you can actually even draw like in the geo coordinates, you just draw like a
perimeter or something,
a perimeter, and it's like any cell phone that was there during these hours, grab a list of those IDs and then start running ads to them. And so what's really cool is like you have the ability, I guess, technically to run ads to them while they're there, but that's such a short window by the time you would get ads uploaded and approved and all that. But you can download those IDs, and even though 100% of the people that were there at the time may not necessarily be, like if it's like a dental conference, they may not necessarily be dentists. I mean, there may have been some other people there, but the vast majority of them probably were. So then when you take those out and you just start showing them ads, and it's kind of like retargeting in a way. Because a lot of people understand retargeting. You go to a website, they pixel you, and then you start seeing them everywhere. This is just a backdoor way to do it, because you're just saying, here are some IDs, start showing ads to them everywhere.
Yeah,
I like
and you just can build up these audiences, and like there's actually some of the data providers have even put together audiences where they've basically kind of curated them for multiple events and conferences and things.
Yeah.
But you can do some really cool things like that. And it's changed so much, even in the last 2 years, 1 year, in terms of the accessibility of that type of advertising.
Yeah.
Because it used to be kind of something that budget wise you had to, be like a Fortune 500 to, get access to it. But, now, I mean, we can run campaigns sometimes for, people spending just a couple $1,000s.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like kind of what creates those like sort of serendipitous moments where people are like, my phone must be listening to me. I was just talking about this. Well, your phone didn't listen to you to hear you talk about that and then put an ad. No, the data that's been collected knows you so well that's why you're seeing these sort of serendipitous ads of like, man, I was just talking about this thing.
Yeah. And it's, and one of the, the big things is that if you are basically feeding your conversion data back, so you have a pixel or something to tell the ad network that this person actually bought something, you're tying into so much data, with these networks that then they're able to optimize using AI, machine learning, and basically keep figuring out these little niches to kind of put your ads in, and you could get to a point where it's almost like super predictable. Like I know for one ad network that I work with, Quantcast, they have enough data from VoIPO that I can literally place ad insertion orders with them that are CPA based, so the cost per acquisition, because they'll just respond back with the volume. So it's like I can say, I want VoIPO customers for $60 each. How many can you give me this quarter?
Oh, wow.
And, they just reply back, and you just pay that flat performance. because they have over, a year of conversion data though.
Right. They know how to target, they know how to expand, and get more of those similar people.
Yeah. And so, when you build things like that, that's like a really powerful asset, and it's kind of like, just like having like an email list or, a subscriber list, like a YouTube channel or podcast or anything like that. If you're collecting data and pixels and have, pixels on your site for different ad networks, that's basically like an invisible list that you can advertise stuff to.
Sure. Is this pretty much, this sounds like the backbone of pretty much everything you do, and we should probably wrap it up pretty soon here too. I just checked the clock. I was like, oh, we're already over time.
Oh yeah.
But this is like, no, is this like just really fast? Like, was this how HostGator, like, was this part of your growth as well over there? And pretty much any other thing you do?
Actually it wasn't, because it wasn't as accessible back then.
Right.
It was still a little too early.
Okay.
So it wasn't really part of HostGator. HostGator was basically AdWords and affiliates, pretty much.
Gotcha.
But for VoIPO is started with referrals from HostGator, referrals, word of mouth, AdWords, and then a lot of this programmatic. And and like within our agency, we work with a lot of people. Like we run traffic for the Abraham Group. We run traffic for Harvecker, Steve Sims. I mean, a lot of people, that you guys are probably familiar with too. In the same circles, and everybody wants to be on Facebook. And we have like two of my partners in the in the agency, because I mentioned I had acquired an agency, to put in the consulting firm, and the two founders of that agency had been the internal media buyers for traffic and funnels, and they had left to start their own agencies, Seth Pennington and Glenn Hodnott, and they are very big on Facebook, and like we still run on other platforms, and we have a couple full-time media buyers, but like they love Facebook, and I'm just like, but you have to fight with an algorithm. Like there's so many variables. Like to me, it's like a lot of this stuff is maybe a little more technical and it's not as visual, and Facebook has really, one of the reasons it's so widely used is that, they make it fairly simple to get started at least, and it's kind of visual and and so this is more of just a little bit of more of a manual process. But as companies are building, more software to, access and manage these campaigns, then, it does become a lot more accessible. But a lot of people still don't understand it, because, one of the ways to look at it is like social is just one part of the internet. Facebook, all that is one part of the internet. Even when you combine Google and, YouTube, AdWords, all that, that's still just a part of the internet. There's like all these other websites out there that you can get your ad on. And if you can put your ad on, an article talking about the benefits of the type of product you sell, and there's like a banner spot available there, and you can put your ad on there for like a few cents, that's just like leaving a lot of money on the table. But it still comes down to the fundamentals that you have to have like a solid, offer, something that people want to buy. Like you have to have, a solid flow, for like your site or funnel or whatever. But there's a lot of cool stuff you could do.
Seems like a great opportunity, and especially if people don't know about it / don't even understand it, and there's no like interfaces to easily access it. It's like, this is a pretty good opportunity if you want to scale something you're already doing with AdWords or Google or Facebook really well. It's like, dude, take it over here and apply some of that to new properties.
What we do a lot of is really just scaling scaling. We don't work with a lot of like people that are looking to start something new, 0 to 1, but we'll scale them up. And in some cases, the spending 6 figures a month, and just Facebook even. So Facebook, Google, or whatever. But we don't say that everyone has to go this route. It's kind of a, we look at everything as like, there's no one size fits all. It's like YouTube is really good. I love YouTube, but if you're not good with video, you don't like making videos, then
go somewhere else.
We're not going to push. Yeah. It's just like there are different opportunities and different ways to build things. And so we work with people to kind of figure out what's best for them. And, I just love like really working with people in, like I said, different industries. And sometimes that's like just as, consulting, sometimes it's marketing, but it's just really interesting to see like what comes down to like fundamentals and then the little nuances, so like we have like clients in like the mental health space. So that has a little bit of a unique twist, because we have certain guidelines about what we can say and not say. And, but it's like still like the fundamentals of marketing are, and especially online marketing, most companies and businesses that are in like that space are not really doing much online. So for someone that is doing it, they have a lot of opportunity. Or like we partnered with someone that we're working with, Cash Cow Farmer.
Cash Cow Farmer.
It's accounting software for farms. It optimizes like how many acres you have, and it looks at the commodities markets and figures out, here is how to optimize your farm based on the commodities market projections this year.
Oh, wow. So it tells you what to plant.
Yeah.
Clever.
And it's just kind of like, that's like I would have never even known something like that was needed or existed, because I'm not a farmer, but someone created that, and now they're like, how do we get it out there more? And that's where you can do some of the cool stuff, like going in with the native advertising programmatic and find farmers that maybe also subscribe to certain business magazines, or so there's kind of a little bit of an overlap.
Paid ads
and do
are so
cool things like that.
You just do anything you want with them, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So cool.
Dude, this has been like I feel like under the hood of what you have Hostgator, so you're so generous sharing everything there, but like the inner workings of that growth, obviously your story throughout the whole thing, but then a lot of the stuff that's just not talked about, like the programmatic advertising. I don't think anyone has ever talked about it this way, at least not in our show.
Not at this depth,
native
at
least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's something that, I'd be happy to, try to come up with some basic resources, to put together and send over to you guys if you want to.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Distribute it. I mean,
that'd be great,
because it's one of those things that's simple, but it's just not well known at this point.
Dude, that would be forever indebted if you made like a training or something. We could share it with our podcast folks community. That'd be right. Because I think like this is just, for me, it's like a light bulb moment of like, oh, there's so much more out there.
Yeah.
But it's also so early on, it's seeming, where there's probably a lot more opportunity now for folks to jump on it.
Yeah. And it's it kind of overlaps a lot into like psychology and everything, because you are looking at, behavioral traits and psychographic traits and different things. Because another good example is does someone use coupons or not? And the Kroger cards, Ralph's cards, all those things that are tracking it, they sell that. And, and an example with that is you may create like a dynamic offer where it just quickly flags people couponer or not. And if they are a couponer, then, it's like 40% off today, here's the offer.
Yeah.
But if there's someone that doesn't use coupons, they may respond better to like a full price offer, even if it's the same price, just by not showing that there's any kind of discount or anything, then that person might respond better.
Yeah, with other, maybe there's a bonus, or maybe they're looking for some other thing in addition, you know, to make them feel warm and fuzzy, not a discount.
There's psychology. Some people are like, I want a deal.
Sure.
So they want to see that. Then there's some people that if they see deal, they're like, oh, I'm not a bargain shopper.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just weird, crazy little things like that you think about and they make sense, but you don't realize that there's the ability to, tap into things like that.
Well, let's leave people hanging, and they can do their own research, but eventually when they get some training from you, can dig in a little deeper. No rush on the training.
Sure. So where can people go and learn more about you, get involved with what you're up to, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. Yeah. They can go to Profit Layer, Profit LAYER .com, or find the Profit Layer podcast, Profit Layer website, or just find me, Timothy Dick, on pretty much any social platform, LinkedIn,
nice,
Twitter,
cool.
Pretty much any platform there, or timothydick.com.
No one shouts out LinkedIn enough. I'm happy you shouted out LinkedIn.
I love LinkedIn. I do not like LinkedIn paid ads, though. I haven't
heard a single person that does.
Yeah.
They're not a sponsor right now, these episodes. Yeah. Well, I think they're getting better. Hopefully they're aware of it.
I will say, though, that you can tie into LinkedIn data using Bing.
Okay.
So if you advertise there, they've recently, in the last year, they've basically integrated that. So the backdoor way is to
use Bing.
To tie it into job titles and things, is use Bing.
Oh, very cool.
That's a little I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well,
all
cool,
right.
Timothy. We'll link all those resources up in the show notes so anybody listening could find easy links over at the website. And yeah, thanks so much for spending this much time. We went about 20 minutes over what we anticipated, but well worth it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I think, hopefully, in some of the rambling and stuff, you guys got some golden nuggets out of that. And,
there's some gold in there, yes.
Well, we take notes for them, so if they ever want to, now that we'll let them know, shortcut to the actual takeaways, you can go check it out there. But this has been fun, man. Let's do it. And maybe there's something else, another round in just programmatic stuff, like deep diving into that.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah. I feel like that could be. We could do another round and kind of go through it.
Yeah. that could be a whole nother hour on its own, I think. Yeah, so I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, have a good one. Thank you.
Sounds good. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Hey. Thank you for listening to that episode. This is Joe Fear. I'm sure you probably already knew that. And Matt is not here right now, but I'm pretty sure he enjoyed the episode just as much as you and I did, because, he went into the production of kind of making that thing right along with me. So thank you very much. And I want to give a quick shout out to our buddies over at Easy Webinar. These guys have been supporting us for a long time. And Casey Zeman is just a super good guy all around. He's actually been on the show before. He's the founder of Easy Webinar. So if you look up Casey Zeman on any podcast platform you're listening to, go check him out. Go check out his backstory, what he's all about. You can learn a lot about webinars as well. And right now, Easy Webinar, these guys are actually hooking you up with a great trial. It's a completely free trial to test out their software, soup to nuts, check it all out and see if it's a good fit for you. If you go to easywebinar.com/hustle, that's HUSTLE, if you didn't know how to spell hustle, there you go. So if you go to easywebinar.com/hustle, you can go grab a free trial. And Easy Webinar literally lives up to its name. It's super simple. Super easy. And it does all the stuff that you're looking for in any kind of thing with webinars. They literally cover every single type of webinar you possibly can do. So from live to automated to scheduled at specific times and all these crazy features in between. Can't even list them all out. I'll be here way too long. They give you a ton of advanced analytics, what's working, what's not during your webinar based off all these actions. You'll see who attended, how long they stayed, if they clicked the offer or if they didn't. Basically, you're going to make more money and you're going to work less with this thing, and you're going to create better relationships with the folks that are listening because it's a good experience. You want to give that good experience along with some great content, of course, in a killer offer if that's what you got for them. So go try it out yourself. Go check out easywebinar.com/hustle. That's easywebinar.com/hustle. Alrighty. So that is the end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, enjoying it. Hopefully you did. I'm pretty sure you did if you lasted this long. And go check out Easy Webinar when you get the chance, and we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice, simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address, and we'll send you the notes.